This video is brought to you by the letters A and B. A for Andrew, Hobby Dungeon Andrew to be specific, and B for Broken and Brain. Let me explain. See, since it's come out, maybe even in the lead up to its launch, the homie Hobby Dungeon Andrew has been evangelizing Warhammer the Old World. He's a massive fan of the gameplay, the strategies, and in particular, the endless list writing possibilities. Of course, it doesn't hurt that the Old World is the home of the dwarves of old, of which he has, well, all of them. Seriously, go ask him how many dwarves he's collected. Impressive is a wild understatement. I figure if someone as cool and smart as him likes the game, it's gotta be worth playing. Besides, I'll jump on any excuse to roll dice with the homies. And here's where we get to the letter B. My broken brain. Despite having built several regiments armies, the rank and flank game from one-page rules, that could definitely be used in Warhammer the Old World, and building a Chaos Dwarf army right now, my brain needs distinct forces for each game that I play. I really don't recommend being as specifically weird as I am, but here we are. The Beastmen have always been one of those forces that have interested me. Angry man-beasts, charging in like a malevolent force of nature. Maybe more of an unnatural malevolent force, but either way, they were what I was jumping into this world with. And while there are some great models in this battalion box, looking at you, Gorgon, that's not where we're starting. I got the green man from Pablo, the Still Tower, a little while ago. In fact, I used the Lodestone sprue on my Chaos Chariot a few videos ago, and this green man was my jumping off point. Sure, Pablo sculpted him with Orion in mind, but I figured it would work nicely as a Doom Bull here. No changes. He is perfect as is. If there's a Doom Bull in the list, you know we're gonna rock at least a few Minotaurs. Several months ago, the one and only Trent, aka Miscast, and Curtis of Ramshackle Games, sent me a few goodies, including one of these ogres. I immediately bought 2 more, knowing that I'd need several of them at some point. Now was that time. These semi-two-headed beasts were pretty awesome, but needed to be a little more Minotaur-like. And they definitely needed some weapons. Luckily, I had a plethora of weapons that I'd cut off of, or never put onto, the Green Knights of Chaos Age of Sigmar army I've been working on. Even better than that, many of the unused Chaos heads included horns that would work perfectly on these Minotaurs. Some super glue, a little baking soda, and we had 3 Minotaurs ready for some paint. Like I said earlier, I don't recommend being as weird as I am with armies. You certainly do not need distinct armies or warbands for each and every game you play. Build one that you like and make it work in every system you can. Heck, with a little ingenuity, you could make units work for more than one army. Obviously, this Doom Bull could also be Orion, allowing me to use him for 2 different armies very easily. I've just been having a blast cracking out whole armies through the first half of 2025. So I'll be riding that train until it's not so fun. Who knows, maybe I'll sell off 1 or like 6 of them. Maybe. I don't know. Anyways, despite these being weird freaks that don't necessarily exist in the real world, as it were, I look to real life for color inspiration. Deer, moose, elk. Animals prevalent in the great outdoors around me. Generally speaking, these animals are just shades of brown. Sometimes gray-brown perhaps, but brown all the same. So, to make some varying shades of brown, with some good depth of color, I elected to go with a tried and true palette. Zorn. Well, sort of. Rather than stick to the standard white, yellow ochre, vermilion, or cadmium red, and black, I used a shortcut of burnt umber. Sure, I could have mixed burnt umber with the other colors, but this saves some time. And sometimes, okay, most of the time, I'm kinda lazy. With the palette set up with paints, I mixed one other color, a dark green, by mixing some black into yellow ochre. Then began slopping some thin burnt umber all over the model. I like to start with a sort of universal midtone, slop it all over the mini, then dab some of it off the high points with the shop towel. I find that it helps to get the paint flowing on the model, And to be quite honest, it just gets me started. Think less, paint more. Here, I slop the burnt umber over everything, then the dark green into the lower and shaded areas, very roughly. Zero precision needed. It's one of the things I love about oil paints. They are highly forgiving. Then dabbed everything back with a shop towel. This tends to involve some back and forth, adding some of the dark color, removing some of it, then going back in with the sort of mid-tone color. Despite the back and forth nature of the process, it really only takes a few minutes to get things how I want them. This kind of sets the midtones and shadows, and from there I could start looking at some brighter areas. I've probably said this in all the oil painting videos, but I'm looking at each model as a single, organic shape. Using hues to initially add some highlights, shadows, and midtones. In this case, using the dark green and pure black for shadows, the burnt umber for midtones, and some yellow ochre for highlights, generally making the top and front of the model brighter than the bottom and back. Once I'm happy with this sort of hue mapping, I'll start adding some titanium white or pale yellow to enhance the detail and bring up the values of the brightest points. I'm not going for clean detail, of course. It's all about creating an impression of the thing, really leaning into leaving the areas I don't care about, and therefore don't want the viewer to care about, very dark, and creating a fairly sharp difference in both hue and value from those dark areas to the brighter, more detailed areas that I do care about. I'm not suggesting I'm an artist, but it's much more of an impressionistic interpretation, rather than a realistic one. Don't worry about subjective quality in your artistic pursuits. Create the way you want to create. Smush paint around. Explore. Have more fun. I guarantee we all spend more time painting our little war dollies than playing games, even if you play a lot of games. So paint and hobby in the way you enjoy. Ultimately, you owe it to yourself. I don't know. Don't listen to me either. I'm just a disembodied voice on the internet. So here we are. My Doom Bull and Minotaurs for my Beastmen Brayherd army. And yeah, this does mean that I've currently got 3 fantasy armies on the go. Once again, I do not recommend being as weird as me. Trust me. While you're here, what units would you like to see in this army? Let me know in the comments below. And maybe hit that like button to appease the internet gods, both the old ones and the new. Most importantly though, thanks for watching. You are awesome.